This is a Go to War podcast, which is a mindset.
It's time to go to war.
You're the fucking problem. Get your mind right and get ready to go to war.
It's time to go to war.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Go to War podcast. This is your host, John Paramore, and how you guys doing? Hopefully everybody's doing well. Been another week. A lot of things are happening, a lot of good things, a lot of crazy things. And I think today we're going to go through a topic and subject that's actually one of my favorites. This is one of the things that I talk with my clients a lot about. This is one of the things that I talk with my kids a lot about. This is a reoccurring lesson that those of you that know me and follow me on social media hear me bring up and talk about a lot. And there's a lot of parts to this. There's a lot of things that go through this, into this. And I'm gonna cover some of those things with you today. And likely this will end up being a two-part podcast so we can really break this down for you guys, okay? So I'm gonna break down the traditional homework that we do every single podcast. Let me just go over a couple things for you. Number one, remember, this is not a paid podcast. I don't get paid to do this work. This is work that I put out on a regular basis for you guys from the 20 years of entrepreneurial experience that I have, from lessons that I've learned. And the only thing that I ask you guys to do, like, comment, and share this work, okay? I want you to like it here in the podcast area. I want you to share it on your social media. I want you guys to comment here, leave a review. And I ask you guys to do that because that helps us get it out to other people that can benefit from this message, okay? Second, this podcast is not for everybody. I try to tell you guys that, and still I get messages from people that ask me why sometimes I drop F-bombs on the podcast or whatever. I get it. That's fine. But if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff, this is not going to be for you. This is not going to be the place for you, because when I get passionate, I get up and going, that stuff comes out. I sometimes really get on a roll with these podcasts and I just let loose. Okay. So if that offends you, that kind of language offends you, this is not going to be your podcast. Okay. So now that we're through all of that stuff, the disclaimers are out, the homework is set. I want to talk to you guys about the pain and the power that comes through pain. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. The power that comes through the pain. Many of you who listen to this podcast have either seen me speak somewhere or are very locked into the social media that I put out. You follow, you pay attention. So you know I talk about this quite a bit. When I share personal stories and personal struggles of my own, I talk about the power that I gained through going through a lot of adversity and pain and struggle and things like that. This is kind of the buildup on top of that. This is the second part to extracting the lessons from adversity, from trials, from pain that I've been through. And this is now the application of continuing to increase my capacity and ability to go through adversity by using pain to do that, okay? And so in a couple of previous podcasts, I've talked about, number one, why I schedule pain daily. And what I mean by that is I put myself in situations or scenarios where I'm forced to learn something new that I don't necessarily like, I don't necessarily enjoy, but is required or essential to either building my business or building up myself as a person and helping me get to the next level, okay? An example of that would be I go to the gym every single day with a trainer, and most days, well, especially now that I'm in a program, I do 2 workouts a day, okay? So by scheduling that type of pain, what that helps me do is, number one, it helps me grow physically, it helps me grow mentally, and it helps me expand my capacity. And those 3 things are incredibly valuable and incredibly important for you in your own personal journey. And I talk a lot about this because it's incredibly important for us as human beings to do things outside of our comfort zone on a regular basis so that when we're put in situations that put us outside of our comfort zone, we can deal with those things and handle those things on a very large level. So what I found is the people that don't do that, the people that don't schedule pain regularly when they have to go through adversity or they go through a large amount of pressure, they fold. You can see them begin to backpedal in their body language. You can watch them backpedal in their physical language. You can watch them backpedal in their mannerisms. And the pressure and stress of adversity and stressful and pressure-built situations cause them to regress. They cause them to expand or contract. They cause them to basically, for lack of a better term, push away from that particular instance or scenario that's happening. And what I found is that instead of leaning into it so that they grow from it, they work really, really hard to avoid it. They work really hard to not have to handle it or avoid it. And some people, like if you watch inside, like let's use an example that we can all relate to. If you watch inside of companies and businesses, every single person, no matter what they're doing, are going to find themselves at some point in a relatively uncomfortable situation. And one group of people will lean into it and attack it, so to speak, and go forward with confront it. And another group of people will dramatically constrict or contract from it and start to lean back or remove themselves from it. It's the difference between somebody having a very powerful conversation that goes against something that they might believe in order to gain clarity or certainty or understanding, or somebody quitting because they don't like the pressure. They can't stand the pressure. They can't stand the atmosphere. And they're just not in a position regularly where they're working to grow themselves as an individual. Okay. So that's one example. Another example would be, what are you doing every single day personally to expand yourself in your relationship with your spouse? What are you doing personally to expand your relationship with your kids? What are you doing personally to expand yourself as an individual? What are you doing? So I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you a breakdown here. We talk about often you assessing where you are on a regular basis in order to gain clarity about what needs to happen in order for you to move forward. This is the exact same thing, except for you're using pain as a driver. You're using pressure as a driver. You're challenging yourself to get outside of your comfort zone by purposely putting yourself into a place that makes you incredibly uncomfortable. And some people have said to me, John, you're crazy. Why do you do this stuff? Again, because for me, the journey in the game is played through expansion. I'm always working to become a better version. I'm always working to expand my knowledge. I'm always working to expand my skill set so that I can either serve more powerfully my family and the relationships that I have, or I can more powerfully serve my clients. So if you, I'll give you a glimpse. Like if you look inside of what we're building and what we're creating, a lot of it has to do with recruiting, marketing, going into companies, looking at what's going on inside the company, dissecting where the breakdowns are and fixing the breakdowns. So a lot of it has to do with scaling. A lot of it has to do with growing. And every single time that we work with a company to do that, or a business owner to do that, there's a level of pain that goes into that. I mean, if you think about the number of people that we talk to on a regular basis that struggle with lead generation, it's because 9 times out of 10, they're avoiding a certain level of pain or a certain level of discomfort that they need to endure to learn how to do something. Or if you look at somebody who's unwilling to expand themselves from a sales standpoint, they're not very good at recruiting, but they refuse to learn the process or the skill set of recruiting. That's them refusing to go through a certain level of pain or discomfort in order to have the next level. And I think that's the biggest part for me when I talk to a lot of people that avoid pain on the regular basis, is they've just found themselves in this, this might offend some people, but they found themselves in this fucking terrible place that is called comfort. They've gotten themselves into this comfort zone where they're not expanding, they're not growing, and in fact, they're actually going backwards and might not realize it because of their lack of ability or lack of capacity or lack of willingness to do something outside of their normal zone, and they won't expand forward. And I think one of the other big things you got to watch for here is when someone feels like that they've gotten themselves to the point where they know the answers and they really don't know the answers, but they believe that we were talking about this in a meeting earlier where they feel like they might know the answer, but in all actuality, they won't do the work to learn what they really need to learn. So what happens is they're trying to roll something maybe that worked, I don't know, 90 days ago, 120 days ago, 6 months ago, whatever. It doesn't work anymore today, but instead of putting themselves in a little bit place of pain or discomfort to learn whatever the next level is, they just won't do it. So that's the kind of stuff that I want you guys to really focus on and start to take inventory on, is like, where in your life are you, if you were to just schedule a little bit of pain, could you gain a lot of power? Where are the places in your life that if you were to withstand a little bit of discomfort, you could gain a lot of clarity and certainty and, again, have more power? And that's a level that for a lot of people, they build these stories around why they can't or why they shouldn't or why they won't. And then they find themselves in this place where they feel stuck, they feel alone, they feel uncertain, and it all boils down to their unwillingness to schedule or work through the level of pain necessary and required to gain the level of power that they desire. And here's something that I want you guys to know that's really, really important in this. Sometimes there's going to be people that you will encounter or have conversations with that have fallen more in love with the pain of not having than their willingness to schedule some pain in order to have. Like, they'll say things like, I want this to happen, I want this thing, I want this different outcome, I want this different desire, but at the same time, they've fallen so deeply in love with the story that is keeping them stuck that they actually love the pain of not having it, even though they verbally say it's what they want. And to me, that's one of the most dangerous and toxic places us as human beings can get ourselves into, because when we're telling a story about something we desire, and then someone comes along and says, you can actually have that thing, but you just have to undo these 5 things, or you just have to correct these 5 things. And when we start to correct those 5 things, we get like to thing number 3 and we're like, God, the pressure and the pain and everything is so intense at this level. It's just easier to go back to that level of discomfort that I live in, where I don't really have what I say I want, but in reality, I'm creating exactly what I want, because it's the same fucking pattern of behavior that I keep rolling through over and over and over and over again. And when the pressure gets to like level 3, I just don't want to do the work anymore. So that's the difference between the people that you see are incredibly successful and have built mega businesses and great lives and great relationships with people, is they're willing to endure a different level of pain to capture a different level of power than you are. That simple. Their willingness to endure pain is greater than your willingness to endure pain. And here's the truth. You're already, if you're in a spot right now and you're like, I don't like where I am in this spot right now, and you're not doing anything about it to improve that section, you're already enduring a certain level of pain. You likely just don't realize it, or you realize it and you're like, well, this pain is less than the pain that I would have to go through to make it go away. So fuck it, I'll just deal with this pain. And that to me is nutty, because the crazy part is, if you dial that up just a little bit, you go through just a little bit more pain, you can actually have the lifestyle that you really desire, and the power that you really desire, and the better relationship and better things that come along with that you really desire. But you guys have heard me say this on this podcast before. Success does not reward the wrong people. So if you're one of those people that's not willing to go through that level of pain to really get what you deem as successful, it's not like success is going to show up in your fucking doorstep one day and be like, hey, you know what? Here, man, you've been enduring shitty pain for a really long time, and it's probably been enough. Here, let me hand you some success. It doesn't work like that. It's the quicker that you will fall in love with the pain required to give you real power and real success is the quicker you'll have those things. And the longer you avoid it, the longer you'll have the misery or shitty pain or crappy lifestyle or whatever it is that you're not becoming or not getting because you won't pay the price. Okay. And you guys have heard me talk about this. I did I think it was last year sometime, I did an episode where we were talking about paying the piper. This is very similar. The difference between this is this is the second level to that. You've got to schedule pain every single day to access the power that you truly desire. And most of you guys, when I'm saying this, it's like, this is a pretty simple, process, mindset. You guys hear me and you know that that's the truth. If you, and I often, you guys know, I often refer things back to like weight loss and fitness and things like that. Your current level of fitness and your current level of success in your body and things like that is directly related to your capacity or ability to withstand the amount of pain you're willing to go through to create what it is that you actually desire in your mind. So if your willingness is low and your tolerance is low and your capacity level is low, then you've created what you've created right now. If your capacity and your willingness and your tolerance is higher, then you have something better than that, right? So you guys, I know you guys get that. And I want to challenge you around the main thing, which is stop telling yourself the story that you can't have it and fall in love more with the story of I can have it if I'm willing to do the work. I can have it if I'm willing to go through the pain. And those of you that need to understand that it's not a matter of can't, unless you have some type of physical ailment or something going on that's preventing you from it. For most of you listening to this, it's not a matter of can't, it's a matter of won't. And those are two very different things. You know what you need to do, you simply won't do it. And if you are willing to go do it, but you don't know where to start, you've got to seek out somebody who is an expert in the area in which you're working to create, and you got to go either one of two things. You can spend a shitload of time trying to figure it out, which is wasting time, or you can pay somebody and dramatically accelerate the amount of time it takes you to figure it out, to get the information that you need in order to collapse time and build what it is that you actually desire. So it doesn't make me any difference. It's just, it comes down to, do you want to spend a bunch of time, quote unquote, figuring it out? It's likely somebody already has the answer. You got to find the guy who has the answer and pay him and get access to that. Okay. Again, the pain, right? Pay somebody $5,000. They give you the access to what you need. It collapses time, but you're like, oh, well, I don't want to pay the $5,000 because that's scary. What if this person doesn't deliver? When in reality, if that's the question, it's you that you're worried about won't deliver, not the person on the other end who actually knows what they're doing. Okay. So just a little bonus material there for you. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. What pain are you avoiding? What's the pain that you're avoiding? That if you just simply grew some balls and went through the pain, that you would have what you actually desire on the other side. What's the pain that you're avoiding? I want you to write that stuff down this week. And then I want you to get real clear with yourself and be honest with yourself why you're avoiding that pain. What's preventing you from going through that pain? Is it a story? Is it financial reasons? Is it somebody in your world is keeping you from doing it? A spouse, some friends, whatever. And then the only thing to do from that point, once you're clear about the pain that you're avoiding, once you're clear about why you're avoiding it, is you got to get your fucking mind right and get ready and go to war.
It's time to go to war.
Thank you for listening to the Go to War podcast. For more information about Smash, please visit www.thesmashco.com. This has been the Go to War podcast.